Hey, business building warrior. This is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We have an episode with guests today, and we got to turn on the video camera. Today's guests are Joel and Jessica Decker. They are coaches on our team. They're doing a tremendous job. They've coached a whole bunch of students for us, and very successfully, I might add. And they've got a great story as well. It's such a cool couple. You're going to love getting to know them a little bit. They've built a business that's right about $1 million at great profit margins. They're doing a little bit of the replens model. That's about half of their business. And the rest is kind of the treasure hunt model, the scanning barcodes, finding great deals. And they've got a small team, a big family. They homeschool. And it's just a beautiful story. You're going to love getting to know these guys. And I just love doing these episodes. On a personal note, just hanging out with these guys for a little bit today. I've already recorded the episode as I'm recording these comments, but it was just so good getting to know them a little bit more and hearing from their heart and their perspective on this opportunity. They truly want to see people's lives changed through the stuff that they know. They just can't help but share it. So they love being coaches because they get to share the stuff that they know works. And I think you're going to pick up on that vibe very much from this great, humble, knowledgeable, very successful family that uses the stuff that we teach around here as their income to support their family and their kids. So as we get to know these guys, I think you're going to agree with me when I say, what an incredible team we have. I'm just so blessed to have all these great coaches. And I want to introduce to you right now and get on the line, Joel and Jessica Decker. So Joel and Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, good to see you guys. It's only been a few weeks ago. We were all together in Tampa.
That's right.
And that was phenomenal, but it just flew by so fast. And you two are a couple that I've really been eager to get to know a little bit better. So I'm excited about this show. I want to jump right into your story.
All right. Well, I'm Jessica. This is my husband, Joel. We've been married for literally forever. We were high school sweethearts. We grew up in northern Indiana, and we decided against going to college, and we decided that he was going to join the Air Force instead. And so we spent 21 years traveling the world, going to lots of different countries and lots of different states. We have 4 children. We have 2 older children who are already married and grown up and have given us almost 7 grandchildren. My daughter is pregnant with number 7.
Wait, whoa. You guys have 7 grandkids?
We do.
Almost.
Yeah, almost.
So you guys got married when you were like 10 and 12, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty close.
We were teenagers.
We were young, yes.
Wow.
But it was Indiana. So what else do you do, right? So,
hey, watch it. I'm a Hoosier as well.
Our 2 oldest have moved out. Our son is also now in the Air Force. He's stationed out in Arizona, and our other daughter lives pretty close by. And so we get to see our grandchildren from her all the time, which is wonderful.
Oh, that's great. And thank you for serving, Joel, and thank you to your son as well. That's a very significant thing in our household, as well as many listeners I know as well. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, sir.
So our 2 youngest are still at home. We have a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. And we're still kind of homeschooling. We're attempting to homeschool them still as well. So we were in the Air Force, like I said, for 21 years, and we were living overseas in Germany. And we knew that it was time to retire because our children were moving out. I was tired of flying back and forth to see my grandbabies, the ones that, they had started having. And so Joel decided it was time to go ahead and retire and be done with this Air Force thing. And so we looked at our budget and we said, okay, we got to do something to help supplement our income. Mm-hmm. And so we started looking at the internet and seeing what can we do? What can we do to kind of make some extra money? And we found Amazon. We found selling on Amazon. And the first thing that we found was where you actually utilize print on demand, where you're putting a design on a mug or a T-shirt.
Oh, okay. And when was this? How long ago was this?
In 2016.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we thought this is perfect because we were living in Germany at the time. We had no concept of, VAs or prep centers or any of that kind of thing. And so all we had to do was, put these designs up on these products, launch them on Amazon, and the company would fulfill them and send them to the customer. We're like, this is beautiful. This is perfect. And so I started, putting designs up, making all kinds of, designs because I thought that was super cool and lots of fun. And then Joel's like, well, how about I give it a try? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Why don't you try it? And so he puts one design up, and that design, I am not kidding, has sold almost every single day until
it sells every day.
Yes. Sells every day, multiple times a day.
That's phenomenal. I love it.
And so we obviously that's still, a part of our business, not a huge part, but it's still part of our business.
Every time that it's being fulfilled, I think to myself, I need to spend more time on this. I need to go back to this and do a little bit more of this print on demand stuff. But, it's other things take time too. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So you guys haven't really touched that business in some time. I take it just kind of run on autopilot, the work you did a long time ago.
Yeah. We hired someone to kind of do the fulfillment of that because it's kind of tedious and time consuming every day to sit down and place the orders. So we hired somebody to take care of that end of it for us. And we've also launched that product on other platforms as well, Etsy and eBay and whatnot. And so, it's pretty hands off. We just see the check. Well, it's not a check anymore, but the deposits come through. So
that's pretty cool. I love it. We probably need to put together a little mini course or something on that concept for the community and get you guys into training others on how to do that. Sounds like you got and I know we've got some other people in the community doing that same sort of thing as well. We haven't talked about it in a while, but the promotional companies.
Yeah.
Right. There is actually a course in the Proven Amazon course on that. Had you guys seen that or been through it by any chance?
We have seen it. Yeah. I looked at it quite some time ago. So not anytime recent, but yeah, it's been a while.
Okay. I'm just curious if that was kind of like overlapping with the concept that you guys are talking about here.
It's pretty similar, because we don't have to purchase the products from the promotional company. It all just is fulfilled through the supplier.
Yeah, so I got you. It's more like a drop ship arrangement.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically...
I was avoiding that word.
I think you have to be careful with who you're working with. You want to make sure that you can trust that they're sending out a good product, that they're going to fulfill the item within the time frame that you're saying that it will be fulfilled by, because you're basically putting your account reputation in the hands of somebody else. So if you go down the road of doing print on demand, make sure that you find a manufacturer or a fulfillment center that you trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the same responsibility you have as if you merchant fulfilled a product, right? Amazon's expecting to ship out on time. So if you're leaving that in someone else's hands, you could get yourself in trouble if it's being drop shipped. So you got to have a good, solid relationship there for sure. Yeah. Okay. And it sounds like you guys don't have very many eggs in that basket anyway at this point.
Right.
No,
it's not huge. It's just small and consistent.
Yeah.
Sure. I love that part of the story, though. I just wanted to fill in some gaps because I know people can be like, "Oh, I haven't heard that before. That sounds interesting."
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. So
so we did that for
we did
about a year.
That was our very first Q4. Was in 2016, and then as we were kind of in the process of learning more and more about that business, we realized that there are people who went to the store and bought stuff and actually sent it into Amazon and sold it on the platform. And we were going, wow, that's really cool. We should try that. But we couldn't quite figure out how to do that living overseas in Germany. I was coming back and forth a lot, to see family and whatever. But we still just kind of couldn't wrap our brains around it. And so we bought the PAC course and I became a coaching student. And then we went to our very first, at that time, it was called CES. We went to CES 5 in Florida, I think it was, Orlando, Florida.
That was our second time in Florida, right? Yeah, okay.
And thank you, by the way. We were scholarshiped into that CES.
Really?
Thank you for that.
I'm learning so much about you guys. This is great. I didn't even realize that. Okay. Well, you're welcome in retrospect. I'm so glad we did that.
Well, and we are too, because we went to that conference and as we walked out of there, we said, we are never going to miss one of these conferences ever again. We made some really great relationships. We've met people that we actually still talk to today that are still our friends. And we learned so much that it was incredibly valuable to our business. And we said, we will never miss one of these again. And we haven't, except for, of course, last year when it was canceled. But we've been to all of them since. So that was a huge stepping stone in our business. And
that Orlando event, it's bringing back memories you guys mentioning you hadn't thought about in a while, but remember there was a hurricane that blew through right before we had that event.
Yeah, right.
And I had this great idea. I'm going to take my family down about a month beforehand and just enjoy 3 weeks or so of fun and sun and go to Disney. And, then we'll do the event nice and relaxed and ready to welcome people in from all over the world. And a hurricane blew through while we were there. So we drove, I think it was like 16 or 18 hours to try to get to Atlanta to avoid this. Like in the eye of that storm went right over our hotel a week before the event.
Oh, wow.
Should I have had insurance for this? I don't know, right? It was crazy,
Right.
but it ended up being a phenomenal event, as they've all been. I love the backstory of how that's how you guys got started too, because that event came very close to not happening.
Right.
It did. Thank God. And you guys were part of it. And it was a tremendous event. So I love that that's where your roots in our community kind of started.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So after then, Joel moved home. I kind of came home a little bit before he did, bought a house here in South Georgia where we live now, close to my grandchildren. And Joel started doing RA, just your normal run of the mill, going to the stores, looking for product, going through the clearance aisle, looking for
scanning barcodes.
Scanning barcodes. Yep, absolutely. Coming home empty-handed, maybe coming home with $100 worth of stuff. Right. And I was kind of doing the packing and shipping. We were doing this at the time on our bedroom floor, just kind of, putting together these little bitty shipments. And then we kind of started getting a little bit bigger, and we're like, okay, we can't do this on the floor anymore. We need to do something a little more smart here. We need to let's move to the dining room.
It was a big move.
We're like, okay, we're gonna move the dining
moving
room.
on up.
Proud of that.
We
showed it off to our friends and anybody who would pay attention to us. We were proud of that dining room space. We had a floor scale and everything.
That's awesome.
So we're prepping product now in our dining room. No one can eat, but we have a little place where we can prep our product. And again, we're growing, and now product is now spilling out into the living room, and we're going, okay. I remember one Q4, we have like these French doors that come from our dining room into our living room. And we had to open the doors up and move the couch and set all these tables up. And it took over our entire living room. Yeah. And we were going, okay, we have to do something. This is ridiculous. And so we kind of tossed around a couple of different ideas. But what we finally landed on is that we were going to add on to our house, because I didn't want to go get a warehouse space in town. I didn't want to leave my house. I wanted to be here where my kids are. And, if, I wanted to come run in here and do something real quick, I wanted it to be close. And so we decided to add on to our house. And that's actually what you can see here behind us.
I was about to ask, for people who are watching this episode on YouTube, there's a big open space behind you guys. Looks very perfect for prepping, in my opinion.
Yeah. It is. Yep. It's connected to our home, which I think is great, because if you go out the French door this way, there's my pool and my hot tub. And so if we get tired of prepping, we can go out that way. We've got a playground out this way for the grandkids. I can watch them out the window. And we just have this beautiful space that, that we can kind of just do a little bit of everything. We can work in here. We can play in here. We've hosted church parties in here. So it's a great space.
Man, that's so awesome. Well, Joel, I want to hear from you a little bit. Like, as you were listening to this recap, this rapid fire recap, like anything that we missed or left out, like from your perspective?
I think, I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've had with being able to resell with an Amazon platform. And I'm thankful for the tutorial and the lessons that we've had and the advice that we've got and the coaching that we've gotten from your group, because there was someone else in the beginning. I don't remember his name, but it was one of the types of things that you get into where once you get into it a little bit, they want you to drop $10,000 to buy a container of stuff from China, and they had a great plan to move it all and sell it all on Amazon, but I just didn't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, you're talking about a different program that you were considering.
Different program. I don't remember who it was, but
we wouldn't call them out anyway at this point. But I know exactly what you're saying. It's we'll do it all the work. Anytime they're like, "Oh, we'll do all the work for you," like, that's. Right. You got to be super cautious. I've yet to see any of those offers like that last more than a few months. And man, they reel in a bunch of people but they just don't last. So yeah, good job avoiding that.
Yeah, and I think once we found your community and started learning the business or the different aspects of the business through your community is when we realized that we were on the right track. And there's still things that we're learning every day. We're both coaches now. We both have people that we're coaching, and you continue to learn how to do things better. You continue to learn that sometimes you need to go back to what you started with and do the basics again, because that's what worked in the beginning. And as maybe you get off track a little bit and get distracted, you can go back to those things and continue to find those items that are profitable just by doing the basics.
The basics really work. Yeah. I mean, just this morning, I was noticing one of our top ASINs, like, man, we it's the same product. We sell it on 2 or 3 different listings, and we're selling a lot of it lately. I just thought, when's the last time someone went in and checked and see if there's any other listings that have that product in it? Like we don't have a process for going through and they're checking, and we all should. If something's really flying off the shelf, one of the first things you should do is go, okay, where else is this product sold on Amazon? There's probably opportunity there too. Yeah. But I went in, and within just 10 minutes, I found another ASIN. Like, we could have been using it all along. Why haven't we been? I don't know. Whose job is it to check that? We don't have a policy for it. We should. And like that's another $200 a month that should be going into the bank account that's just been sitting there the whole time. Right. So you notice those little things. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And there's always a bunch of them. Right. I want to dive into just a little bit the dynamic. You guys said you're coaches on our team, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job. But the back of the end of the story here is Jessica is actually one of our coaching leaders, and Joel is one of our newest coaches who's working for a coaching leader who has a team. So how's that working out? I want to get an update. I haven't talked to you guys about that yet. We've had that arrangement here for a few months. And how big is your team now, Jessica?
Let's see. I only have three people on my team right now.
Joel's one of them.
Joel's one of them, yeah.
So where's he rank? No, I'm just kidding.
We won't say it, no.
No. Yeah, I love the way our coaching program is organized. Is we have coaching leaders with teams, and they have coaches under them. And so there's a support structure there if you have questions or whatever. But, so how many students have you coached now total, Jessica, maybe between the two of you as well? Like, how deep into this are you?
I want to say we're up to about 70 between the two of us.
Well, and I just took on my 4th student last week.
Yeah, the majority have been mine. So
Right. That's so cool. I just love it. I love that conversation I had with Joel, because one of the things we do is I'll get to know each new student, each new coach as they come on board and have a conversation. And this is the first time we've had this arrangement where, husband or wife, spouse of any kind, is like joining the team of the spouse who's already well experienced. I think it's the coolest thing. I just love it. Like, I want to see those evaluation reports. I can't wait.
Yeah, right. That's probably something I would enjoy, right? Because that's the one thing that I guess I hesitated when she started with coaching, was knowing my background in the military. When it comes to learning or developing a skill, I want it to be very structured. And I knew that the coaching program was not necessarily designed that way. But what I've seen over the last year plus that she's been coaching is that it works with the design that you've built. And so as I've paid attention to her and what she's teaching her students and how it's working, I'm like, I can fit into that.
Well, I want to dive into that a little bit more. I love that you brought that up, Joel, because our coaching program is about 16, 17 years old at this point. And literally everyone who had an e-commerce coaching program at the point we launched ours is long gone. And pretty much everyone who launched one 5 years or more ago is long gone. Like, those programs just don't last in this industry, but ours has. And I love that you're coming at it from an angle of military. It's like everybody knows your KPIs. Everybody knows the procedures. Like, here's the things you're going to learn, step 1, step 2. And our coaching program's not like that. So I'd love to hear you unpack your perspective on how it's different and why it works, even though it doesn't have that super structured feel. Like, what's your experience been? Just 4 students in, but you've seen Jessica doing it for a while now. And as a military guy, I'm very curious.
Yeah, sure. I think I would naturally like to have a lesson plan when I sit down with the client or student, and that I can go through as an instructor or a teacher, and make sure that I'm helping them meet their objective, and it's based on a metric that that I can determine if I'm a successful teacher, right? And I think that's what it comes down to.
Sure.
Me wanting to kind of gauge or judge my skill as an instructor or a teacher or a coach. And so if you don't have that metric to go back to, then I guess you have to get more personal with your the person that you're coaching, and you have to really understand what it is that they're gauging success on, and help them get to that point with basically the time, resources, and tools that they have, but also the knowledge and experience that you have as a coach. And so that's, for me, that I guess, in the beginning, I thought, well, I'd be much more comfortable teaching a lesson plan, but that's okay if it's not comfortable for me. I can get outside of my comfort zone, and if needed, if it helps somebody else, and if it makes me a better person in the long run as well.
Yeah, it's more relational, and you can't argue with the results either. I mean, that's kind of what I fall back on. And I've received a fair amount of pushback over the years, like, we need like a core like base curriculum. Like, well, we kind of have that. That's the proven Amazon course, right? Mm-hmm. But a coach is more of a, like you said brilliantly, Joel. It's like, where's this person trying to get? What assets do they have? So that's a true coaching experience. Like you guys are both in CrossFit. We could probably borrow some lessons from there. Like, I imagine, and I haven't done it myself, you guys are both pretty active in it, but one of the first things you probably do is like, you set that bar of like, okay, here's where we're at. Like, right. Yep. Here's what we're capable of right now. One push up, half a pull up, run a quarter mile, and pass out. Right. Where do we want to be 6 months from now?
Right.
What are the incremental to get us there? And that requires someone who actually cares, who listens, who like, okay, here's, cheers you on to those little victories. So it's much more like that versus, if CrossFit was like, okay, day one, everybody does 5 pull-ups, go home. Day two, everybody's like, it's not like that. Right. Everybody's coming from different advantages and backgrounds. And so I think those two worlds, it's more like CrossFit than it is like a workbook that everyone's going to go through step by step, right?
Exactly. And that's a good analogy, because in that CrossFit world, the things that pay off the most are consistency and hard work. And it's the same thing with business on Amazon. If you're consistent with what is working and what proves to be working, and just stay consistent with that and put in the hard work, it's going to pay off, and you're going to reap the reward.
That's good. I'm fond of saying frequently that the rules for success in all the important areas of life are exactly the same. And I think we just kind of discovered and unpacked another one, it's all about working hard, consistent, doing it for others. Lone wolves don't succeed in CrossFit or in business or in relationships, right? And the important areas, got to have others, doing it for others, commitment, consistency. I love it. This is good stuff. We should probably package this one as a course or something. There's a lot of good stuff in here. What are you thinking, Jessica, as we're going through all this?
Well, I'm excited that he is a coach on my team, because it's another person that I can rely on. If we have a student that I need to readjust or go somewhere, I know that I can trust my husband. I know he's a good teacher. He's been doing this for a while. We've helped a lot of people. We've taught a lot of people how to do Amazon before we did it formally for Jim Cochran Coaching. We would have people come over to our house and stay with us for 3 days. And we do these little like mini conferences where we'd, show them how to pack up a shipment, show them how to scan, show them how to source, take them out shopping in the store. We had several groups of people, just people we didn't even know. And they would come to our home and we would show them how to do this. And, so I know that, we've been teaching people and we like doing that. I really enjoy seeing these people succeed, when they text me and say, I just sold something. That's the most exciting feeling, to see somebody else, hit their goals.
Well, if you guys are open to it. We do some of that. And I didn't even realize looks like you have the space. Let's talk after this episode. Like, hey, if you want to do it, let's send some more people your way, because we are getting a lot of people signing up for our on-site, where we either travel to them or they can travel to us types of trainings. We're having a lot of success with that. Students are loving it. So we need to talk offline. Didn't know you guys were set up for that. This is good.
So it's really, I have a couple of other tremendous coaches on my team as well. One of my guys is really great at wholesale. And then another one of the guys is he's really active in the replens community. And if I threw out his name, you probably recognize it. He's always answering questions. He's super helpful, just always right there, giving someone the right answer. And so I got a couple of great guys on my team that I can really, really rely on.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. I love the way our coaching program is built out. It's just, it's taken on a life of its own. And literally every coach on our team, if I could spend more time with them, I would benefit because they're so full of knowledge. They're doing the business. I love that. So didn't intend for this to be all about coaching, but you guys are doing such a great job. And it's such an interesting dynamic. 2 coaches. I don't know if I've ever had 2 coaches at the same time on the program. So this is cool. Well, I want to hear more about your story.
Okay.
Your business, so far all we've unpacked is, the printables and delivering those. And that's a tiny piece of your business now. Let's dive into where the rest of your Amazon business is built.
Okay. So like I said, Joel was doing RA and I was packing. Well, he kind of got tired of doing that. He's like, oh man, I am tired of Walmart. And so he said, I'm just going to, do some things around the house. Amazon's yours. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't want to go to Walmart either. So I decided to start doing OA. And
one thing before she gets into the story, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Jessica is very much a learner. She's always been a learner. She loves to learn. And so this whole time, this 2 years that I had been doing Amazon, 1.5 years RA, she's been learning everything there is to learn about selling on Amazon. So she had all the knowledge, all the tools that she needed to do it. I learned by doing. And so that's the big difference in the two of us. I don't like to sit down at a computer and go through a module if I don't have to. As long as I get the basics of what needs to be done, I like to go do it and kind of work through the process as I'm going about it. But she had learned everything there was to learn about it, and she kind of took it from there.
So you were diving into replens then, it sounds like maybe, Jessica. Is that the point you started doing some replen training?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
That's coming. But yeah, I was just doing normal online arbitrage,
Gotcha.
Sales accounts and stuff. And we were doing really well with that. But then we went to a Legends conference, a Legends family reunion in the spring of 2019. And Jimmy Smith stood up and he gave a presentation. And I believe it was the first time that Jimmy ever spoke about replens. It was. He stood up there and he gave his presentation. And my husband and I were like, jaws dropped. And he was up all night long. And then our whole drive home, he didn't shut up about this concept. He was like, this is amazing. We have got to do this when we get home. And it wasn't just the whole replens concept. It was the way Jimmy brought forth, he basically gave it a system. He systematized it. The way
which Joel loved.
Right.
Exactly.
There's my system.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy has everything so thoughtfully laid out. From how to analyze, how many units you need to move at an average selling price to get this kind of profit. It was just perfect. And so we went home and we hired a shopper and a packer. And in the 30 days after that, our business increased by $30,000. And so we were like, oh, I think we're onto something here. And so we continued with our shopper and our packer doing the replens. And then I still kind of did the OA because I still enjoy it. I like looking for the deal. I like the clearance and the sales. I still very much enjoy that. So our business today is half replens, half of whatever fun stuff I can drum up. I like to do clothes and shoes. And so I do that. And
do you fulfill those yourself typically, or are you doing FBA on those? FBA for everything. We have maybe a couple of merchant fulfilled products, but we prefer everything goes to FBA. Really? I'd like to pause and unpack that for a moment.
Okay.
Because how's that? 2 questions come to mind. How's that affect your IPI score? To nerd out a little bit for those who know what that is. And the other one is, man, you've got a lot of stuff that you could be making some serious money on your top ASINs if you're willing to do some of the fulfillment yourself on those pretty tables behind you. Bring someone in to do that. Like, what's your thought process there?
Well, as far as the first part of your question, the IPI, it actually hangs out we're actually doing really well. It's higher than it's ever been. And I think that's though because of the replens. We still have those replens moving through that's helping out with that score. But then when I do source clothes and shoes, I'm looking for stuff that is moving really fast, a really low rank, really quick turn product.
You're doing good research then. You're not guessing like, ooh, I think someone would like this. You're looking to keep a even on your
oh yes,
way, shoes and clothes and
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And as far as the merchant fulfilling, I think we would be more interested in doing that if we had some more help. So that shopper and packer that we hired back in 2019, fast forward to 3 weeks ago, they both quit. So they are a husband-wife team, and they decided that they wanted to move on and do something else. And we are so excited that they did that because they're starting their own business, and we're happy with that. However, it leaves us right at the very moment. It is just us two and our teenage daughter.
Gotcha.
So we're a little bit, we're treading water.
We brought someone else on board. He's starting at the end of this.
Yes. We've hired. He's just not here yet. So
I got you. Well, on that long list of like, you know what, we ought to try this. Let me bump that concept of FBM, merchant fulfill, on some of your top ASINs. Like figure out your top 20 or 30 ASINs and take a look at the merchant fulfill possibility. I mean, you guys could put an extra 30 or 50K sales easily in the bank this Q4. If you can get that right person in place in time, I'm sure that's low hanging fruit for you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. We'll get back to the show in just a second, but I wanted to throw in a quick reminder about our fantastic sponsor, Payoneer. That's Payoneer. Payoneer.com/funding, up to $750,000 without a credit check. If you're an Amazon or Walmart seller, great terms. Go check out what they have to offer our community. If you're trying to grow your business and the thing holding you back is capital, they're a great place to look to solve that problem fast. Very flexible repayment terms as well, which is super cool. Payoneer.com. Check them out, guys. Back to the show. If you can get that right person in place in time, I'm sure that's low hanging fruit for you guys.
Yeah. So that's basically it. Last year in 2020, we missed our 1 million mark by a very small margin. And, we're okay with that because we took the whole month of February off to go snowboarding out in Colorado. So we were totally cool. That was fine.
That sounds awesome. Was it how much of your crew was able to make it? It was like a family thing?
It was, yeah. Except for my son, he was stuck in basic training at that time. So he didn't get to go, but my other grown daughter and her husband and their 3 girls came with us.
Yep.
So
that's so great.
Yeah. So
you took a whole month off.
Yep, the whole month.
Almost hit 1 million.
Yep. So it was
that's awesome. We got to cover the margins. Like, what's your ROI margin? Like, give me the big numbers there.
Okay, that's you.
We're gradually doing better with our profit margin. And we have on the OA side, and this is kind of why we still do it. We're at a 28% profit margin. On the replen side, it's down around the 19 to 20%, depending on the month. But like you talked about IPI, that's a good reason to work some replen into your business. But replens are also profitable. It's just the unit profit is not as good as some of the other items that you would find. But it's always a go-to, right?
Yes.
And that's what makes it profitable. And the other thing that I found in starting this business, from a number perspective, is because it turns so quick. If you're being careful on what you replen, because it turns so quick, you can have $40,000 a month in sales with 10 to 12, maybe $13,000 in cost of goods, because it's turning over so fast, and it's and you can get those numbers to work that way. Whereas on the other side, it does move a little bit slower, so you're going to have to have a little bit more inventory to get that amount of sales.
Right, a little more work, a little slower moving.
Right.
Bigger profits on the thrill of the hunt model, the OA, the scanning barcodes, the hitting the clearance aisles, which is still, it's hard for me to walk through a Walmart confession without at least glancing at the clearance aisle, because I think so many of us kind of started there and played around there and found some gold there. And so
Right.
it's hard to just ignore it, but
Right.
you can. If you
Right.
don't need it now.
Right.
Which is a nice place to be. And I'd like to hear a contrast, because you guys are doing a healthy bit of both models. The scanning barcodes, looking for hot shoes, hot clothes that are discounted on sale price, and the boring replen, like, 2 bottles of ketchup bundled together. Okay, here it goes. We're selling 8 of these a month and making, $12 doing it when it's all said and done. But you ramp that up and you got a business. Like, you guys are doing both. Like, how does that contrast the two a little bit more? Let's dive into a little bit more. And your numbers are right down the middle almost, it sounds like, too, from what you said.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. We, so I think it's important to have both, because I find that it's good to have a good base of replens. But I think it's important to also understand the amount of work that goes into sustaining it, because it dries up quick. If you're not consistent with your shopping, packing, and shipping out to Amazon, that sale is not going to be there to give you the money that you need to do it again. And it really comes down to paying attention to what your numbers are averaging out. If you're averaging a $4 profit on each unit that you sell, well, how many do you have to sell to pay for the cost of your business? And then how many do you have to sell to pay for your income? And it just comes down to putting in the work and being consistent with it, because it's pretty easy to average those numbers out and then come up with a weekly spend goal and a monthly spend goal. And if you're reaching those amounts, then you're doing the job that you need to. And that's what I like about the replen side. And it kind of works out the same on the OA-RA side. But I guess what we like to do on the OA-RA side is see how good we can do with those buys, so that it increases our overall unit profit. And so if we can get a $12 or $15 unit profit versus the $4 to $7 unit profit, it helps the business overall.
Maybe we should do this for the new listeners too, because we've gotten slightly technical. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're like at a 4 or 5 technical, here for people who are new. They're like, okay, I didn't follow some of this. It split out in my mind. Like, if one of your new students was saying, okay, you do RIOA, scan barcodes, look for sales and stuff, and you do replens. Define the two for me. Like, where's that? Is there a clean line that breaks those two into 2 categories? It sounds like the same thing to a new seller, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
How are those 2 different?
I guess Jessica's a little more strict about a replen than I am, but in my mind, a replen is there as long as it lasts. And so even if I'm going to a liquidation store like Ollie's, I'll count that as a replen as long as they have it in their inventory. Because it does work out almost the same with other replens that you find in Walmart or Target. It can become too competitive and it dries up for a period of time. And maybe you go back to it in 6 months and it's profitable again. But in my mind, a replen is something that you can go to weekly. And as long as you're willing to go to another store, it may not be in your local store, but you go to the neighboring town, you can go pick it up, so that you're sending it in consistently at least twice a month. We tried to get to where we were sending it in on a weekly basis on the replen side.
It's kind of boring, predictable, easily sourced.
Yep.
Maybe lower margin than the exciting thrill of the hunt stuff, right?
Yeah, it's typically, I find that it's typically a lower margin, lower price point for most of those replen items that we're finding. Some of them are on the higher side, but very few. And it averages out at around a $4 unit profit is what our replen, our typical replens are doing. And now,
how many replens do you guys have?
Active, probably between 350 and 400 that are active. We have, 800-900 that are there that we can, go back to and probably add some more to that 350. We kind of keep 350 to 400 active replens going.
Gotcha. Beautiful. All right, Jessica, what do you leave out? Anything?
Well, not so much. I just say that a replen is something that you can buy over and over again at the same price, that you can always find it. You can always count on, it to cost this much and sell for about this much. So,
well put.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything else is kind of like the thrill of the hunt treasure. You buy it while you can, because it probably won't be here next week.
Right.
Kind of stuff. Right. And that's exciting too. All right. I love it. Well, we've dove into your business, a little bit about family. I know you guys homeschool too, and that's been a consistent theme in our community. We tend to attract a lot of homeschool families. There's plenty of families that aren't homeschooling as well. But how is this having this business active under the roof? Talk us through that a little bit. Like, what are some of the challenges you've seen? What are some of the benefits you've seen? Not to go too deep into this, because I know this could be like a whole podcast theme for like 50 episodes. And we may do that at some point because there's a lot of demand for it. But just hit the highlights for us.
Well, homeschooling for us, some days we'll get it done and some days we won't. So, we try to be very flexible. We get the kids in here in the prep room with us, and, sometimes, they'll read to us, or they'll sit here right beside me and work their math while I'm, on the computer searching for product. And so we kind of try to mesh it all together. We're trying to all work together. When Joel goes out, he doesn't do as much RA as he used to. He's been starting to do it again a little bit and go out and shopping. And, he takes our 12-year-old with him, our son, and our son has learned how to read a Keep a chart, and he has his own phone and he scans products, and he can look at the Keep a chart and say, okay, this looks like a good one. What do you think, Dad? And so Joel will say, yeah, this one's a winner. And so Cade will make some money off of that particular find, and so he's making money.
It always pays to take him along. He does really good.
He is actually really good at it. So our 12-year-old does that. He does sourcing. And our 15-year-old is hands down one of the best packers you will ever find. She is very diligent and she works pretty quickly, and she is very thorough. She's just very meticulous, like she'll let me know, hey, Mom, this has got a mark on it or whatever, we can't sell this, or
she's
whatever.
The one that catches the expiration dates, right?
Yeah, she is.
That's Ty on our family. That's our Ty. Yeah.
She's a very typical slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So she's very thorough, very good.
So she works in here. We don't pay her enough, I'm sure. Yeah. But
we won't let her watch this episode.
No, we won't. So, and I count that as part of their school. They're learning how to be an entrepreneur. Neither one of my children have said, now my first two were a little bit different, but my second two, if you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't talk about going to college. They don't talk about getting a job. My daughter, Bella, will say, well, I'm going to start a business. This is what I'm going to do. And my son, he'll be like, well, I'm going to start a business. Both of them are very entrepreneurial. They're always trying to figure out how they can make money creatively. They don't even think about, going to college and just getting a job. So I think that's pretty cool.
I do too. And it may be controversial to some places. And I picked up on a couple of things you guys said, and I want to challenge a couple of things. What specifically you said, sometimes we get school done, sometimes we don't. I would disagree with that. I think that being in an entrepreneur's household and running a business with mom and dad is better than anything they could get out of a book or out of a classroom with a stranger up front of the room teaching a bunch of people the same age.
I agree.
It's better. So you guys get schooled on better on the days where the books stay closed, I would argue, than on the days where they have to go. And you need some basic math. Yeah, we got to hit some of these. We need to understand the history of our nation, and there's some things they got to hit. But as a homeschool family too, our oldest is 24, our youngest is 15. We've gone through the homeschool thing for quite a while now, and we're seeing how the kids are turning out based on this very loose system, very similar to yours. Sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? It's a nice day. We're going to the zoo, and it's going to be empty because it's middle of the day. And so we get all the zoo workers who are passionate about what they do to ourselves. And you can ask 100 questions. Like that's better than any textbook on giraffes you could sit in a classroom, right? So we have that experience, and I've become very passionate the longer I'm in this homeschool entrepreneur circle. Like, man, it's hard to beat. And without meeting your kids, I know your kids because I know how these kids turn out having been through that type of environment. Our kids are best friends with each other, and they're super sharp, and they know what they're passionate about. And there's certain subjects they just don't care about. And I'm fine with that. It's like, you don't have to be good at everything. I believe in the law of specialization. That's biblical even. Like what are you made for? What's that core? We don't need 50 different subjects and go deep on all of them. That's not necessary. But I don't want to maybe put anyone off or offend anyone by this, but I'm becoming more pro homeschool all the time. I see great families like yours and many families in our community. One of the challenges I hear sometimes, maybe you guys could tackle this with me. I just had a guest on the podcast after we stopped recording here a couple of days ago. I was talking to him about homeschooling and he's considering it. And he said, man, I don't feel qualified. Like he's running a successful business, got a great marriage, very entrepreneurially minded, and he just doesn't feel qualified to homeschool. What do you guys say to people who say something like that? I'm curious.
Well, I would say that anybody would be qualified because who's the best expert on your child than you? You know that person's strengths and their weaknesses. You know what they need, where they need to be challenged and where they need to rein in and where they need to be pushed forward. And so I would say anybody who is a parent is qualified.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Absolutely.
We might have to start that podcast Facebook group at some point because we got a lot of people with some strong opinions on this subject. And I think a lot of families and many families have considered it and jumped. There's been record-setting numbers of people who have their kids home. Like, I don't know if I want to send them back to the school building. What do I do? Hey, let's teach them business. Yeah. Beautiful. So anything on that subject, Joel? Anything pop to mind before we move forward?
No, I think Jessica hit the nail on the head. She's been primarily the homeschool teacher. I've done a little bit more of it the last year or so, but she's much better at it than I am when it comes to the actual teaching part. But we've always had that philosophy, and that's the one thing that I think kept our family stronger during the military times was that she was always that rock for the kids and they were at home. And if I was gone, they still had the stability of a stable family home life and the schedule and everything that mom brought to that. And so if you can homeschool, if you can make it work, if you get to the point where you're developing your business where it pays for you to work from home, then bring your kids home with you and let them be a part of it and they'll be better for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I haven't met that entrepreneurial homeschool family that it was a total disaster and they regret it. I haven't met them yet. I mean, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of families that had this entrepreneurial, let's homeschool them, let's teach them our values. So we have to unlearn that crazy, whatever it is they picked up at school today that doesn't align with our family values. You don't have to do any of that. You teach them, we expose them to everything. Some people think, you're only exposing them to what you believe. No, we studied evolution. We studied all these other theories. And then we said, hey, here's where our family stands on these important issues. Here's what we believe. What do you think? We're able to have these great conversations and use the content and materials and classic literature that we wanted to use to educate our kids. And I've yet to meet that family that goes, we homeschooled for about 10 years and it was just a disaster. We had a business out of our house and it was terrible. Like you just don't meet those people. Everyone's like, you guys are like us. It's like, it was beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So, all right. Well, we beat that topic up probably more than some people may appreciate, but I had a good time. But I want to, as we start to land this episode, which has just been tremendous. Thank you guys. This is a longer episode, but any tips or strategies or challenges for the listeners as we start to wrap it up? Like, is there anything we left off that you guys would like to hit?
I'll go first, I guess, and let you close it up. First of all, thanks a lot for having us on. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
It's just a conversation and we could do this for hours too, but we got to stop it at some point. Yeah. Thank you guys.
I think with what I'm learning with business is that it's really important to just be consistent with what works. Don't get distracted with things that may seem, appetizing or whatever. If it's not working, just go back to what works. And then, along with being consistent, I need to challenge myself to be willing to learn and step outside of the box sometimes, because I can be that lone wolf that doesn't like to reach out and to learn from others. But if you're willing to do that, it can definitely grow your business. Because every conference we've gone to, whether it's the Legends or CES or Proven, we've come back with something new that we're going to work on, something new that ends up really being long lasting and improving the business. So if you can have the opportunity to learn in person, I feel like it makes a big difference for your business.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice.
Yeah. I guess learning not to compare your journey to somebody else's, to run the mile that you're in. I've run a lot of road races and, when you're at mile 13 and you got to keep going to 26 and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to get through 17? How am I going to get through 18? What am I going to do about 21? And I think a lot of Amazon sellers do the same thing. My students will come to me and they'll say, well, what am I going to do when I get that IP complaint? Well, what am I going to do if they suspend me? And I just try to encourage them to run the mile that they're in, to just keep what they're doing right in front of them, keep putting one foot in front of the other, just keep moving. And when those things come, we'll figure it out. We'll run that mile when we get there. So
that's actually, it made some people might say, oh, that's kind of trite. That's kind of simple. But no, that truly is the key.
Mm-hmm.
What one of my mentors says, the biggest, if I only could give you one secret to success in life, and then I had to sum it all up into one short phrase, one short thing, the most powerful thing I could share with you to succeed is do what must be done when it must be done. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about what's going to happen. Like, oh, what about this? And you just kind of become consumed with like, what if this happens? What if that happens? No, go find more replens today.
Right.
Send them in tomorrow. You're going to get more money. Go find more replens and build a system and grow. Because, and I love too, Jessica, that you hit on a little, just to introduce a topic, this fear that people have, like, well, what if this happens? I know a guy that happened. I know this. To this day, we've trained thousands and thousands of students. I know fewer than 5 people who've been permanently suspended on Amazon. Right. Less than 5 that I scratch my head and go, yeah, that's kind of weird. And in 2 or 3 of those cases, if they'd been persistent, I'm convinced we could have got their account back. With tens of thousands of people in our community, you'd think, but yet so many new sellers are like, oh yeah, I heard people get suspended, so I'm not going to do that. Like you're operating out of fear and of what ifs. I love that advice, Jessica. Just focus on what needs to be done. Stick to the basics, do it, and don't worry about the what ifs, because every challenge you're going to run into, we've run into it 1,000 times already. We're going to be here to help you. And this stuff flat out works, as you guys have attested to. Well, that's tremendous. What else? Anything else on your guys' list?
I think that's it.
Yeah. That's it. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I love that you guys are part of our coaching program. I'm honored to get to work with you guys. It's truly a pleasure hanging out with you a little bit today as well. And next event, we're going to get out on an early morning run. I kind of stood you guys out this last one. I think we were all pretty wiped out day 3. We thought we were going to do it, but we didn't get out. So maybe next time, right?
Yeah, next time.
But let me talk to the listeners for just a second too, those who hung out with us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. We had a blast hanging out today and just kind of getting to know each other a little bit. This is the longest I've talked with these guys. So hopefully you enjoyed getting to know them as much as I did. But you've given us some of your most valuable asset. That's some of your time today. And we're deeply grateful. We appreciate that so very much. There's a lot of other things you could have been doing, but you spent time with us. So thank you for that. And if you don't mind, if you found some value in this episode today, the only thing that we ask in return is to send a few friends to silentjim.com, check out the podcast, check out a few episodes. You'll be doing them a favor. You could change their life potentially if you help them start a business and change their financial future for their family and themselves. They'll be great. They'll be grateful. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. That's the only thing we ask in return. So, hey, until we have another great episode like this one again in the near future, I just want to say we're praying for you. We're in your corner. God bless you. Thanks for being a part of our community. We believe in business building warriors like you. We stand with you. We're here for you. Let us help you. We're here. And great people like Joel and Jessica in our community, tens of thousands of them from around the world. We just passed 66,000 members in our free Facebook group. Come be a part of it. All those links we talked about today, they're all in the show notes. So if you have questions about anything, any of the acronyms we use or any of the events or any of the other stuff like that, hey, look in the show notes. We got some good stuff for you there just below this episode. But until then, till the next episode, we'll talk to you soon. God bless you. And we'll talk to you then. Bye then. Hey, before we end this episode, real quick, I want to thank our sponsor, Payoneer. Payoneer.com/funding. Go there. They've got a great offer. Tell them Jim sent you. They'll give you 10% off the fees on your first funding. Remember, if you need more money to grow your business, these are some great guys to talk to. They become a sponsor of our show. We're very grateful. And if you jump over and check out what they have to offer, I think you're going to like what you see. Very flexible payment terms, great interest rates. Go check out Payoneer.com/funding. Hey, we'll see you next episode.